We are 12 races into the 24 race long 2025 F1 season, which is halfway. So since we're at the midpoint, I'm gonna give my thoughts on each team's season so far. As always, like and subscribe if you go on to enjoy the video, and let me know what teams / drivers have impressed you the most so far this year. Also, if you can hear my fan in the background, please ignore it. It is, to word it bluntly, fucking hot. Now I could do this in current Constructors' Championship order, but I'm gonna instead go in the order of who I think has been the most impressive / they should be happy, to who I think has been the most underwhelming / they probably won't be happy right now. And with that said, there's really only one team we can start with. Sauber. Be honest, how many of you thought I was about to say McLaren? I could start with the Woking-based team too. I could do these two teams in either order and it wouldn't change anything, because in my opinion, Sauber can probably be just as happy with their start as McLaren can be, and honestly, they've been the team to impress me the most, so I thought, screw it, let's start with them. For starters, Nico Hülkenberg, at long last, is a podium finisher. Well done, Nico. It is well long overdue that we finally saw him step on the podium. Who'd have thought that we'd get a Nico Hülkenberg podium before GTA 6? My expectations for Sauber were not high coming into this year. I think I predicted them to finish last in the Constructors, but at the moment they're right in the battle for 7th with Aston and Haas. I mean, they were kind of invisible for quite a few races. They had that run of 7 non-point scores, but their point hauls that they've had, the few races that they've scored points in, is really put them up there on the board here, and those good points hauls they've had is more than I expected for them. There's been luck involved in them, chaos in Australia, a late safety car in Spain, Max and Kimi out on lap 1 in Austria, but factors like this are paired to the game, and when you find yourself gaining those luck-based scenarios, you still have to deliver on track. The team still has to deliver the pit stops, the drivers still have to deliver the driving, and they have. Hülkenberg drove brilliantly in Spain to score that brilliant P5 finish. Bortoleto was on it in Austria from the get-go, making Q3 and leading home Sauber's double point score. And as I kind of indicated there, this team has also nabbed 2 fastest pit stops this year, which, given their pit stop issues in recent years and how dominant Ferrari have been in the pits this year, that is bloody good. So good on Sauber for being able to get themselves into the fight for 7th. Okay, now let's speak about McLaren. McLaren came out of the gates swinging this year, and they haven't stopped swinging. They've seen the target of both championships, and they're just dead set locked onto it like a cat is locked onto that red dot of a laser pointer. Their car is a rocket ship. It just works. No matter what's thrown at them track-wise, weather-wise, heat or cold-wise, they're the force to beat. Oscar Piastri has stepped it up big time this year. I saw a post a few weeks ago, I'll never find it again, but it was basically saying that, like, Oscar this year has been like that meme of like, the way, how do I play? Then it's all of a sudden like, no worries, I got it. And honestly, yeah, that is a pretty good sum up of Oscar Piastri this year. Round 1 was in the mud to end up with, but since then he's been on it. Most wins this year, podium in every race bar 1, and he's been chill as hell through it for the most part. In fact, the most annoyed I've ever heard him was on the radio in Austria when he couldn't get a last lap in Q3. It's also the most Australian I've ever heard him sound. The Aussie has been solid all year, and that has shown from the fact that he's leading the championship. As for Lando Norris, I'm gonna be honest, and I'm sorry to the Lando fans, but a little bit of a bottle factory at times. Been making a few too many mistakes, but the speed is there, and that cannot be denied. Nor can it be denied that he was great in the opening race, and these last couple of races in Austria, though you'd expect him to be great there, it's arguably his best track rather, and his drive in Monaco withstanding the pressure from probably the one guy on the current grid who you do not want right behind you at Monaco was impressive. Monaco's difficult enough without the hometown hero staring down your diffuser for the better part of 78 laps, for God's sake. And let's not forget, he just won his home race, which is something that every driver wants to do. He has been solid the last couple of weekends. McLaren have had a damn good start to this year, and at this point, something would need to go seriously wrong for the season to end with McLaren not winning the Constructors, and honestly the drivers too. It's looking really difficult for anybody not in a papaya car to walk away from the 2025 season with the biggest trophy. I'm gonna go for Williams next. They've been a tad underwhelming the last few races. Perhaps they're seemingly a tad earlier than others. Full shift to 2026 is starting to take a bit of a toll on them, but that does not take away from the fact that they can, I think, be pretty happy with where they currently find themselves after 12 races. They've had several strong races this year, and they've really solidified themselves in the midfield and as the current favourites for finishing 5th in the Constructors. Albon specifically has been really impressive, and Australia, Miami and Imola specifically with those 5th place finishes he had, and it wasn't just luck. He'd qualified in the top 10 for all those races and was able to stay up there in them. There was one stage in Imola where I think we were all thinking, could Albon get on the podium? He didn't, but it's becoming clear that James Vowles was absolutely the right man to be chosen to lead Williams. He's got a good driver lineup in Albon and Sainz, who's been a little bit more slow in getting up to speed with the new team to maybe word it one way, but he's had a couple of standout moments as well. Miami as well, he was really good. Williams in general were just really solid there. But, you know, as I say, they've been a tad underwhelming the last couple of races. Austria really just didn't go at all for them, and maybe that's just been a track thing the last few rounds, or perhaps is their full shift to 26 taking effect, but it's still impressive how they've managed to really head up things in that midfield fight this year and show that they're a team back on the up. Into the middle of the road now, and for me, it's Mercedes next. I did not fully trust Mercedes coming into this season, gone off their kinda up and downness of the last few years in this ground effect era of cars. However, while they've had some slightly more shaky weekends since Imola, it's been overall a decent first half of the season for the Brackley-based team. George Russell has been doing the business and has put the team onto the top step of the podium in Canada, where he was dominant really. And more often than not, in most of the races so far this season, all but a few, he's been able to hang around that top 5, and when he has been, he's been either in the podium fight or not far from it most of the time. Again, couple more shaky weekends, but Kimi Antonelli, meanwhile, he has been solid. He's been performing pretty well, and again, he's had some shaky moments, some dud weekends, but when that Mercedes was working well in Canada, he really showed what he could do with that podium finish he nabbed. They're still seemingly a bit up and down as they have been since 2022, but to me at least, it looks like the up and downness is a bit less this year than it has been in previous. They're right in the fight for second with Ferrari, and they absolutely can beat the Italian team to that second place if they can be more up than down. But overall, so far, a touch up and down in my opinion, but overall it's been a solid first half for Mercedes. Ferrari, I'm a tad torn. On the one hand, I expected more for them this year. I think we all did. Ferrari, you can do better. But on the other hand, given they've been on average across the first half of the season 4th best, I'd say, the fact that they're right in the fight for second in the Constructors is actually pretty good. Not to mention this team have been absolute demons in the pit lane this year. They're frankly dominating the DHL Fastest Pit Stop Championship, and I just want to take a moment to really just throw praise the way the pit crew. They've clearly put in a ton of work to be this on it in the pits, so well done to them. Please keep it up. But with all you said, Ferrari, well, they've had standout moments like the sprint win for Lewis in China, a handful of podiums courtesy of Leclerc in the Grand Prix, the pit stops. I think we all expected better for Ferrari this year after they brought the Constructors right to the last race last year. And this is why I've put them right in the middle of the road here, P5. For the good weekends they've had, like Austria, like Monaco, or Barcelona. Then there's also the weekends like Australia, like Silverstone, like Miami, where they're not so good. They've shown promise at several points this year. They've shown they can be competent, but they've also shown that they can still Ferrari it to all hell for one reason or another, be it strategy mistakes, driver mistakes, poor pace. It doesn't take a genius to see that of the Ferrari boys, Leclerc has been the more impressive of the two. As I say, he has all of Ferrari's Grand Prix podiums coming from his drives, while Hamilton's been taking a bit longer to get used to the team. Or maybe part of it could also be that the 7-time champ just does not gel with these ground effects cars, which I could believe because sometimes certain reg sets just don't suit certain drivers. He's getting there slowly though, and so are Ferrari really. And if Leclerc can keep getting the most from the car and Hamilton can keep getting there, and if Ferrari can just get that car into a more good window for the drivers, if that makes sense, which as I say, they seem to slowly be doing that, there's every chance Ferrari can find themselves finishing runner-up to McLaren in the Constructors' Championship again, which given how they they started the year, that would be a pretty good result. Racing Bulls find themselves 6th in this list, mainly thanks to Isack Hadjar, who's been honestly the biggest good surprise this season for me, and is honestly the most impressive rookie so far. I didn't know what to expect for the Frenchman coming into this year because I wasn't overly familiar with him, but he has really impressed with a lot of strong results both in qualifying and the race. Hell, he's the second highest Red Bull family driver of the 4 in the standings. He bounced back from that unfortunate start to his time in F1 in Australia brilliantly, and bringing him in for this year really was the right choice for Racing Bulls. Lawson is getting there as well, getting his feet back under him at the team after being dropped by Red Bull, which is nice to see because that was brutal getting dropped after the 2 races. He has generally been outperformed by Hadjar though. This team has had some blunders though. China, for example, where they'd qualified well but things went to hell in a handbasket in the race. Had some dud weekends that's pushed them down my ranking a bit, but it hasn't been that bad for them so far in this season. They're kind of middle of the road. Now we just have to hope that Red Bull don't get any wise ideas and promote Hadjar too quickly. For the love of God, Red Bull, leave him where he is. Haas have been pretty damn up and down. On the one hand, they've put in some solid results. Ocon has oftentimes just come out of absolute nowhere to score some good points. He had a solid performance in China, Monaco, Bahrain, to name a few. And Behrman's also managed to score as well, but it's been up and down. They've had their not so good weekends as well. They've generally been not as good in qualifying than they have been in the races. They've just been a bit meh in qualifying. They've had some Q3s, but they've also had their fair share of outs in Q1s and outs in Q2s as well. It's not been terrible for Haas. They're kind of in that battle for 7th place. They have a solid driver lineup, which will be, in my opinion, a good one to have for them to head into the new reg set with. But yeah, they've not been terrible, not been outright brilliant, just a bit meh. I say I'm disappointed with Aston Martin and they've underwhelmed, but I actually really didn't expect much for them this year. But either way, yeah, this team has underwhelmed a bit. They are currently 8th, which is actually where I think I predicted them to finish in the Constructors, and I'm not sure I see them getting much higher than that. They've been pretty damn invisible if you ask me. I haven't really noticed them all that much. They are right in that fight for 7th, maybe even 6th, but the simple fact for me is they've been out of the points more times than they've been in the points. Well, Fernando Alonso's still 8.5 bad despite his age, which is clearly just a suggestion to him. He can only do so much. And I mean, the other car is being driven by Lance Stroll, who, well, while he can have his moments, it's Lance Stroll. Need I say more? It should be said that they have been a bit better in recent weekends, and credit to them on that. They've been in the points for the last, 3 straight races. They had double points in Silverstone. But as I say, my hopes for Aston weren't really that high this year, and they've fallen far from their highs of early 2023. My verdict for the early 2025 is rather underwhelming a bit. So before I actually get into what I recorded yesterday about Red Bull, Christian Horner has been given the sack. Didn't quite see that coming on a random Wednesday morning in July, but there you go. There has been rumblings about that going on for a while, that Horner could lose his job, and he has. Perhaps it's what Red Bull need is a change at the top. They've got Laurent Mekies is being brought over as the CEO role, and Alan Permain has been promoted to team principal over at RB. So a lot of changes going on at the Red Bull family right now. God knows what this is going to mean for Max, whether this is going to give him maybe a bit of reason to maybe consider staying, or if it's just going to be the final nail in the coffin of, nah, I need to get out of here. But either way, this kind of further hammers home a point I make in a few minutes time, that my hopes for Red Bull's short to medium term future are not high. But now let's get into what I recorded yesterday about Red Bull, because it feels a bit weird putting a team that's won multiple races this year and has multiple podiums as one of the most disappointing teams so far in 2025, but they have been. The thing that's keeping them off the bottom of this list is the Max factor. Verstappen has been making the difference to give Red Bull the wins and podiums and putting in mega pole laps they've got this year, while the second car, be it Lawson or Tsunoda, just hasn't been able to get much more than the bottom reaches of the top 10. Their main issue comes from the fact that they're a one-car team. I mean, we saw that play out in Austria. If Max Verstappen is out of the equation, the team is nowhere. I think Jolyon Palmer even said it in commentary during that race, that without Max, Red Bull are back markers, or at the back or whatever. And this is absolutely nothing against Yuki, but they are. whoever is in that second seat just is not able to get something out of that car. They seem to struggle a lot more with that car, and that struggle seems to be more so when even Max is struggling with the car. And this stat here from Daniel Valente really hammers home the difference in performance between Max and the second seat. Again, this is nothing against Tsunoda because we came he's a good driver, it's the damn car. Despite the wins and podiums they've had, they have had some highlights. I just would not call Red Bull's first half of 2025 good. And if nothing changes, they're deadlocked onto fourth in the constructors. And while you can never fully count Max out until he's out, I just do not see him clawing his way back to the McLarens in the driver's standings. And now on to this whole thing of Max being uncertain perhaps about his future at Red Bull, the risk of him leaving the team. A risk which I personally do think is high because there's no smoke without fire. Like this here, I'm not a massive fan of Zach Brown, but the man has a point. There's no smoke without fire. The amount of talk there is about all this with nobody outwardly denying anything, which is the main thing for me. Max Verstappen is not outwardly saying no, I'm not going to Mercedes, I will be in Red Bull next year. And you have to think about it, if he was absolutely certain, yep, I'm gonna be in Red Bull next year, he would say that, but he hasn't. But look, put it this way, my hopes for Red Bull's future in the short to medium term ain't too high. I stand by my statement that this team is screwed without Max, at least in the short to medium term. And finally, Alpine. Or rather, I think Alpine might be a better name because sweet Jesus, Alpine. Our expectations were low, but holy fuck. First of all, I still feel for Jack Doohan because he was basically set up for failure. Franco Colapinto, meanwhile, hasn't really done much, to be honest. Gasly has managed to get some points out of the car of this year, so at least Alpine do have points on the board, but it doesn't change the fact that they're last in the standings and are behind ninth by a bit. And honestly, unless something changes for them, I don't see Alpine getting off the bottom of the scoreboard. Yeah, Gasly's shown that they can get points. He's had a couple of good drives, but other than that, they've not been great, and I'm not sure if that'll change. Alpine have reportedly been sniffing around for Bottas's availability, which is interesting. Are they perhaps thinking about the Finn to partner Gasly next year? If they are, then that has some sense to it. Have a more experienced lineup while they're trying to get themselves back up the order and back to some decent results, but they've got to get through the rest of this year first. But I mean, at least if they do finish last, it'll give them more wind tunnel time. There's my rankings. Team that's impressed me the most has been Sauber. Driver that's impressed me the most, I'd have to say Isaac Hadjar. And the best race so far, for me, it has to be the British Grand Prix. If you were to rank the teams first half of 2025 from the most impressive to the least impressive, how would you rank them? Also, what driver has impressed you the most, and what's been the best race of the year for you so far? Let me get your thoughts down in the comments below. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new around here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.